Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today on Woodstove Chat, I'm working on sheaths again. It's a little warm, so I don't even have the wood stove going, so I'm not gonna video a fake fire for you. I've got sheaths to make for a couple knives. You probably saw these in the last video. I hope you did. If you didn't, check out the link in the description. I'll put the playlist in there. But I've got some leather here, some 9-ounce leather, and I figured I would do something a little different this time. I'll talk to you while I'm making the sheaths, but I do have some topics I thought I'd cover while I'm marking this out. What I really like when I have scrap or left, getting down to no leather, I've got a full side right here, but is that I have enough to get another sheath out of it. Man, that's nice. I don't like to waste leather. I keep all the scraps that are big enough that I can make leather handles and use it for other things. The rest of it, I'll use it for backers when I'm clamping sheaths together, gluing them. To keep clamps from leaving an impression in the sheath, I'll put a piece of leather under that clamp to go against the sheath. That protects it. Don't leave an indentation in your sheath. And I'm not a leather crafter, and I just make the sheaths for the knives that I make. And so I do things, a lot different, I'm sure. I know. And for example, I use a razor knife for cutting out leather. I am going to make a leather knife. I'll do that on the episode. What you think about that? I've got this scrap piece. I'm going to go ahead and mark out one sheath, start working on getting them laid out on this other stuff here. But I do have a couple topics. One of them being, what do you think about knives? And before I say this, when I make a knife and deliver it, this thing is warm in the hand. It's not hard, no hard points, anything like that. Everything has been softened, even the spine, unless it's a bushcrafter that wants to strike his ferro rod. But I like to keep them soft and all the way around where you're not getting pokey and stabby in places that don't need to be pokey and stabby. It's soft, it's user-friendly. So, but what do you think about handles that are all scalloped? And yeah, they're grippy, but let's take a skinner, maybe not so much. It takes about 20 minutes or whatever to skin a deer. But what if you've got a chopper and you've got this thing in your hand, and a lot of people use these knives all day long. It's out in the bush or in the jungle. You make a big kukri and you scallop the handle all up. You're going to have blisters all over you. I mean, I've had blisters from even smooth handles where there's a hot spot on it somewhere from using a chopper all day long in the forest. I mean, I do have an opinion about it, which I'm not crazy about them. They're super easy to make. You just go up there to your grinder with a small wheel, just start putting in scallops all up and down it. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time shaping and being very artistic. It's preference, and for me, it's a preference to not have, like I've made them for people. That's how I know how they're easy to make, because people have asked me for them and I've made them, but it's not something that I personally like, and for the reasons I mentioned here. So what do you think about them? I'm curious. I'm just tracing my pattern out here, nothing fancy. I make a pattern for, the different knives, and I just hang on to them and reuse them. But I'll get these traced out and cut out on this good old leather here. I've got 2 of these to make and one a little bit longer for that big clip. And I'm on this fresh side of leather that I've got here. And what I like about it, it's a full 9-ounce all the way out to the edge, and it's good and clean. You do get some scars and things like that. This is not grade A material. So you'll get a brand sometimes, depending. But for the most part, I get pretty good leather. Then I'm going to take and cut out all of my spacers or welts. I use scraps for that when I can. And I've got a little scrap here, should work just fine. Go ahead and mark all this stuff before I cut it out, but I've got enough here for one spacer for sure. I make sure it's thick 9-ounce. It doesn't have to be too pretty because it's going to be inside the sheath there. You won't see it, but I should be able to get a couple out of this. So what do you guys think about going live? And how many of you watch live stream YouTube videos, knife making? I very seldom do. There's a couple outdoor channels that I watch, but not knife making. I have, but it's just not something I regularly do. I'm wondering what you guys do, and gals. The problem with me is I can't go live because I do not have internet out here in my shop. I could get an extender, and you don't know if it's going to work or not, and you invest the money and it doesn't work. So I just haven't broke down and tried it yet because, if I invest the money, I want it to work. And just wondering what your thoughts are. And maybe some of you guys have an idea about, I'm at least 100 yards or so from my house to my shop. And it's a metal shop. And, I just don't get a signal. I don't get a phone signal, anything out here. Having the right extender. And I've looked at several of them and read reviews and those that are true. And I don't know. I'm just kind of worried about that. So I'm cutting, I make the double welts at the top. It's single welt down toward the lower end of the sheath, and I double welt them. So I'll have 2 of these and 2 of the single welt pieces here to cut out. See, I'm getting a good bit of this out of here, but I get these cut, get these things ready. So I'm ready to clean up anyway. What's your thoughts on going live? All right, I was just about to cut this sheath out of here that I thought I had just done something great and saved this piece of leather. And then I noticed a line in here, but I thought it was actually a pencil line, but it's a cut. I don't know if I did that. I don't see how. I mean, I just don't do random scratches across the leather with a knife like that, but that's unusable. I just can't use that for a sheath. So this will become spacers or welts and that kind of thing where I can cut them out. What a bummer. The other thing I have to ask about is video topics. I do struggle with that, and because you do the same thing over and over all the time. You're trying to figure out what people want to watch. You want to get views, because it makes it worth my time. And at the same time, I'm trying to figure out what that is and make everybody happy, the viewers happy. But it is a struggle. I mean, I've asked this before, what do you want to watch and what do you want to see? A lot of this stuff, and I know new subscribers probably don't know this because videos you have to look for them, unfortunately. I do have playlists. That helps a lot. You can go to my playlist and check out a lot of things. I've done a couple videos on bolsters, and some of the guys have never even seen those videos asking me, how do you do those bolsters? I don't mind that. It actually helps the video, helps the algorithm to ask questions on any video. It just lets me know that they haven't seen those other videos. Sometimes you just need input on what you would like to see on the channel and topics. I don't know. I see a lot of channels do great with oddball end things, forging nails and tacks and you name it. And let me tell you this part. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but I did a video on how to make a knife from a file, and just a very simple, basic video, taking a already hardened file, tempering it, grinding a blade out of it, wrapping card wrapped handle on it. And that video has outperformed every video on my channel. It is like blew everything else away. And that just puzzles my mind. Is this what people want to see? I mean, I know it probably appeals to a larger audience. People don't have knife making tools and equipment and things like that. And this is a way to make a knife, which is why I made the video, is to show that you don't have to have all this stuff. You can make a knife from an old file if you keep it cool and cut it out. It's not going to be a Cadillac knife, but it'll make a good cutting tool. But that video, is that what people want to see? I mean, does people want entertainment? So I just don't know. I'm curious. What can you tell me about topics that you'd like to see? I mean, you take the folder videos that I've done. Those are, details that you'd pay dearly for if you went to a teacher. I know, because I've been there. And it's free. It's on the internet. It's on YouTube. And a lot of people want to make folders, but you just don't maybe there's not that many people that want to make folders because they're pretty detailed. There's playlists. I've got a couple different ones on just making frame locks, a couple different playlists, and nobody watches them. See, that's why I need to make me one of them leather knives. I just overcut that piece of leather right there. That sheath looks small, but the knife is small. And I don't make a huge, deep pouch for them. So what are your topics? Let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate that. Videos you'd like to see. I'm curious. I know there's some topics that I haven't covered. A lot of it, too, is doing my research. I find that they're not very successful topics. You know, I can't say that the ones I've done are very successful. That probably has a lot to do with the way I shoot and edit and carry on and jabber like I do, and our music. I mean, I get a lot of people say, I don't like no music, and some man, love that music. Or another one say, man, I like the music, keeping it low. So it's a 50-50 thing with all of that. I mean, personally, I could listen to videos and not listen to any talking at all. I just watch because I can learn and be entertained at the same time. But if you're, going for some serious education there, techniques, then yeah, I'll listen to it then. I mean, I go to hammer-ins and I like to listen to seminars. I listen to podcasts. That's what I do in here all day long when I'm not making videos is I have earbuds in and I'm listening to podcasts. Sometimes music, not much, but mostly podcasts and not really knife-making podcasts. A knife-making podcast is, oh my. I listen to other podcasts. I do like a couple of knife-making podcasts, but 90% of them I can't tolerate. A lot of times I get topics from comments, just comments in the video that I post, and that inspires a topic like the taper tang. I had a couple of people ask me about drilling and some about how to taper tangs. I mean, that's awesome. And I noticed that as soon as somebody asked me that, wasn't a day later, there was somebody else posting a video about it. People's reading your comments, other creators, and that's cool. I don't mind that at all. A lot of these guys are my friends, good friends, and more power to them. I say go for it because it ain't like everybody don't do the same thing. I mean, I read other creators' comments and get ideas. That's cool, and it's always good to have a different perspective on how to do things than just one person telling you or showing you. And YouTube is okay to learn certain things about knife making, but it's not going to teach you like hands-on with an instructor. There's so many small things you're missing, little things that make a huge difference. I mean, huge difference. It's just hard to cover every little thing because y'all be rambling on forever like I am right now about all of those little details. I did a class about a week ago, and it was a chef's knife class. I was making 3. This guy was making 1. He did a 3-day class. The great thing is he was a natural. I mean, a natural. Grinding. Dude ground a perfect flat bevel, beautiful plunge lines. And then he did a, great finish on the handle. I didn't do a lot of work, very little. I just showed him with the knives I were making. And he took it and ran with it. Normally, I'm helping these guys finish their knives out and grind them. And, that's part of it. This guy was a natural. But there's so many little things that I showed him in that 3 days that is hard to put out here on YouTube. I see a lot of the results of people not learning everything they need to learn by watching YouTube videos on some of the knives they make. And, they'll even tell you, I learned to make knives on YouTube. I saw a post last week where 3 different people said they learned from watching YouTube. That's great. That really inspires me to make more videos because I can show more. You really need to, go to some classes, hammer ins, and ask questions and get some details. And because you're missing some things, I can promise you. When it comes to heat treating, just certain tips and tricks that you'll see when you pick up the knives and look. I saw one yesterday for a perfect example. For example, if you're pinning bolsters, steel, brass, stainless, or whatever, and you're trying to hide those pins, there's only really one way to do it. And you've got to taper that hole. And you need a tapered reamer that you can crush and create that wedge in there. That way when you grind it, it blends in. You're using the same material. So if it's brass, taper those holes in those bolsters. Use brass pins. Press them in, pin them in, whatever you do. When you grind it out, you won't see none of those pins. I could see the pins clearly. There was even some gaps around in the photo. Otherwise, a very finely finished knife. I was very impressed. Good looking. It's just in pins. You want to up your game, get a tapered reamer, and some of that you just may not see on YouTube. Having an instructor helps, and that's where I learned that from, as an instructor when I was a kid learning how to make knives. My mentor taught me that. My dad made the pin press that I still use to this day for doing pressed on bolsters. Man, I'm gonna take forever getting this sheath cut out, and I'm sitting here rambling on. It is Thanksgiving week, Thanksgiving tomorrow actually, and I've got to do a lot of cooking. You know, here in South Louisiana, the men do a lot of the cooking. I always get nominated to make the dressing. I'll be making a chicken cornbread dressing. It's an old recipe my mom used to make, and I make it every year, and both sides of the family request it. So, and I enjoy doing that. I hope you're having a good Thanksgiving holiday and enjoying some good food and fellowship with your family, because that's really what it's all about to me, is spending time with my family. The sad part about it is my mom and dad are gone, and things are never the same, I can assure you, when you lose your parents, because I was very close to my parents. And I miss them dearly, especially this time of year when we get together and eat and laugh, the whole family together. Just, it's not the same. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and glue the welts together, let them be drying. Then I'll come in here and do some tapering and clean them up a little bit. But I had another topic to add to the topics, is sharpening choils. I don't use them anymore. I don't put them on a knife unless a customer asks for them. I don't personally like them at all. They're snag to me. It just, you can make it shallow or move it back some, and I still don't like it. Now, I mean, some of my original knives, I'll show you one here in a second. A lot of them had sharpening choil. That was just, everybody's doing it, I'm gonna do it. I think that's a lot of it today. I mean, I can sharpen a knife all the way up to the plunge lines without a big snag cut into it. And be honest with you, a lot of that is hiding plunge lines that are not square. That's what I see, because I mean, you can see them if you look close enough. That's just my opinion now about sharpening choils. I don't like them. I don't care what, you know, you want to do or anybody else does if they want them. The reason I don't like them is because they snag. If you're cutting rope or something and you're trying to get some leverage there, and you get close to your plunge lines when you're trying to get leverage, not out here on the end where it'll slip and cut. You want a control cut, and you cut a piece of rope or string, jumps in that snag. Even a small one will snag it. Just my opinion. I don't need them. I don't put them on my knives anymore. What is your thoughts on them? I mean, do you like them? Do you use them? That's just a personal preference for me, again. So if you look here on this old knife, I made this knife over 30 years ago, probably 34, 35 years. So if you're trying to cut something here, you'll snag in that. I mean, I've tried shallow ones, you still get that little snag. And I'm thinking, well, if it's that shallow, if I cut it shallow, why do I even need it? Now, some knife designs, you can't avoid a sharpening choil because of the design. For folders and most skinners that I make, they're going to be like this. I'll sharpen it all the way to here. I mean, a lot of people have issues with that, I guess, sharpening them. It works just fine, and I don't have any snag, and I can get way up here close. That's why I cut my plunges right at the end of this handle. It's for leverage. I want all the leverage I can get out of this knife when I'm cutting and not have to get way out here. Just my 2 cents, my opinion. I'd just like to know how you feel about it. Or do you use them? I mean, if a customer says, hey, can you put a sharpening choil in there? Yeah, no problem. I don't have a problem doing it. I just personally don't like them on my knives. Kind of put this stuff a little heavy here. I didn't mean to do that, but I did. And if you notice, I got a strange looking block here. That's about a 110-pound piece of steel. I broke my stamping block a couple weeks ago. And so I'm having to improvise. Squeeze some of that out there. And so I found this piece of steel. I got to buy another block and get that made. I just get these glued up so I can come back and finish them out after they dry, get them tapered, and I'll have all of that ready when I start getting ready to glue up the sheath and do the sew up. And then I'll do the same thing with the belt loops. I'll do a little bit of prep to them before I glue them over together, but just all prepping. The biggest part of this stuff, in my opinion, is, for one, designing a sheath. If you got one designed, you're good shape, but cutting it all out, I mean, that's the part I hate most about it. But I will do some treatment to these welts before I put them in the knife. I like to come in here and clean up the inside of the welt, at least down to here, and burnish it. Also trim the corner on it so that when the knife comes in, it has a ramp there. And, you know, it just makes it nice. Clean that up, burnish, it looks good. So we'll let them dry, and I'll get the belt loops done, get them prepped. What I do is I take them over, after they dry, I take them over my grinder, I get them square, and I do all the edge beveling right there with my grinder. I mean, I have an edge beveler. I use it sometimes, and most of the time, this is how I do it. I over the grinder. Now I'm using some of that leather to pad, so I do not mark it. I don't want it marked up from the clamps. So I just clamp it on that leather, and I won't have any marks there. Then I'll go over the grinder, clean them up, get them beveled, get them contoured, mark them, get them ready to sew. And that's just all there is to it there. All right, with all that stuff out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and glue on the belt loops. They're ready to go. I could dye these first and put them on. I could dye all of this. I mean, there's 20 ways to do things, but this is how I'm going to do it, kind of like I do it most of the time. Put a little glue on them, get them clamped on. I have one more topic that I wanted to cover, and it's more of a tip than anything. But I know a lot of people struggle with warped blades, a lot of stainlesses especially, and you go to temper them after you harden them, you know, you're doing your tempering, and you will, you know, a lot of people will straighten them at that point. What I like to do is take a first temper, because usually I temper twice, and I come in there and do my clamping and straightening on the second temper. And, you know, I've seen a lot of people have issues with breaking blades and things like that. I've seen a few posts about that, and I might made a mess here with too much glue. Didn't let it dry. You have less risk if you'll wait and put your straightening bar in there and clamps and all that after the first temper. That's been my success in doing that, and it works pretty good. I haven't had any issues with it. Sometimes I will use a carbide hammer, and you know, if I got a pretty good one that I really need to work on, I'll do that after the second temper. After the first temper, try clamping in there and, you know, see if you have better luck. Because I saw a few posts a couple weeks ago where they broke them while they was trying to straighten them and temper, putting too much pressure on them. And that'll do it. Because it hasn't, you know, you haven't increased the toughness yet and taken the brittleness out of it. And you clamp it up to stick it in the oven to temper it. And you're putting a tremendous amount of stress on a blade that hasn't been tempered at all. Try it on the second temper. So I'm putting a softener on the top sides of these and clamping them on, let the glue dry. Not worried about the bottom side. And you may ask why I do this. That's when I fold it. It'll help it fold better, more uniform, and not so much stress. I'll also wet it when I go to fold it. I'll glue the welts in and get them glued up before I sew them. Hey, I got another question for you. Just another question. What does finished up mean? I see a lot of posts where just finish this one up. It's just something I observe. Finished up. It's better than finishing down, I guess. I'm going to get these glued on. I'm going to let these dry, sew them on, and put the welts in. Then we'll be ready to sew. Now, you've seen me do this. I've got several videos out there, at least 3 or 4, of making sheaths. So I'm not going to go through all of that. It's the same process over and over. But I hope you got something out of this rambling wood stove chat. And if you got any questions, just leave them down below. I appreciate you watching, hanging out with me, just kind of like a vlog today. And I want to thank my patrons, and we're going to see you on the next one.